will be placing everyone under mute. No, naka-mute kayo. So please refrain from unmuting and engaging in speaking unless asked to. No. So we have to respect our speakers and the fellow viewers' perspectives. So kung ano hong sinishare ng ating under mute speaker, no, naka-mute kayo natin dapat inaaway. In fact, we are so happy to have them all this afternoon. And we would welcome your questions, no? And other reminders also, we are live via Facebook, no? And also, we would like to thank our partner for this afternoon. Inquirer is also showing us live in their page. So thank you very much, Inquirer. And also, I'd like to thank our napakasisipag na staff of Kaya Natin for helping us out with the technicals and everything. So for this afternoon, unahin na natin ang napaka-busy, ha? Our speaker for this afternoon, our first speaker for this afternoon is presently the DepEd Undersecretary for Curriculum and Instruction. He has been tasked to coordinate the ongoing review of the K-12 curriculum in our country. USec also holds a research PhD in education from the University of Newcastle, Australia. He has been a recipient of various scholarships for his education, both here and abroad, and has several published articles. Furthermore, he strengthens a strong research culture towards meaningful innovations for learning and pushes for transparency, ethics, and accountability in school governance. Maraming salamat sa inyong paunlak sa amin, USec Diosdado San Antonio. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you very much po, Ma'am Amie. May I be allowed to share
Amie lang po.
my PowerPoint?
Sure.
May I be allowed to share my screen? It has been disabled by the host.
Okay. Maris, baka pwedeng i-able na natin yung kay USec. So while they are fixing yung screen ni USec, yan. Teka. Okay. There you
okay
go.
na po? Nakikita na po ang presentation?
Yes, sir.
So yes,
Yes, sir.
this is essentially about distance learning. So I'll be very quick. I have 15 minutes and thank you very much for the privilege of being a part of this initiative po. Doses of good governance, of course, very close to my heart because when I was a regional director, I really pushed for transparency, ethics and accountability in DepEd governance. Tawag namin doon T-governance. Of course, we have developed a basic education learning continuity plan in collaboration with our partners. This has been approved by the IATF. So everything that we are going to do in the Department of Education will be anchored on the basic education learning continuity plan that is now available on our webpage. It's DepEd Order number 12. Everything is there. And then, of course, I'm sharing the principles of the basic education learning continuity plan, which is about making sure that the health and safety and well-being of teachers and learners are protected, that continuity of learning is really assured, that we will facilitate safe return of teaching and non-teaching personnel and learners if allowed to do face-to-face. And as recently announced, we will do it January 2021 in limited scale. We are also sensitive to equity considerations because we know that families coming from the poorer classes would not have access to gadgets, which will be also somehow detrimental to their access to learning. And of course, we will continue to link and bridge the learning continuity plan to our own pivot to quality, yung pong sulong edukalidad and futures thinking and education. Just an update as of today, 8 o'clock this morning, our enrollment po in all schools is 21.84 million, which is 78.6% compared with last year's enrollment. In the public sector, we have 20.58, which is now 91.1% of our enrollment last year. But for the private sector, we have 28.6% enrolling yet, which is equivalent to 1.23 million learners. And let it also be known that there are about 360,000 learners already transferring to the public schools from the private sector. Our school calendar po, as we have issued in our debit order, will start on August 24 and end on the 30th of April 2021 with 203 total class days. Of course, the first thing we did to deliver distance learning and continue providing basic education services to our learners was to streamline the curriculum, and we did this by analyzing and producing the most essential learning competencies list. Of course, it was mentioned that the review of the curriculum is ongoing, and when COVID-19 came, we were in the midst of finishing our phase one, which was the review of the intended curriculum. This was about the list of competencies in our curriculum guide, and we discovered out of that review where we were supported by the Assessment Research and the Curriculum and Technology Center of the University of the Philippines, Diliman. In doing this, we have identified and discovered that indeed curriculum is congested, so there's really a need to streamline, and at the same time the standards we have identified are actually comparable with the standards around the world. For our essential learning competencies, they are those that the learners should really need so that they can continue to subsequent grades and ultimately live successful lives. They are aligned with our national standards. They connect the content to higher concepts across content areas. They are applicable to real life situations. They are important to students, for students to acquire. Even if a student leaves school at a particular grade level, they would still find the competencies useful. And they cannot be expected to be ordinarily learned by students if not taught in the schools. And then the streamlining I mentioned, actually from the existing 14,171 competencies in our K-12 curriculum, we have reduced it to 5,689, a reduction of 60%. Don't be alarmed, but as I've said, what we have identified are the very important competencies that the learners would need. And personally, I feel that this effort to pay attention to the foundational competencies will somehow make us more focused on the need to develop these very critical competencies that the learners will need so that they can continue to be self-directed learners in the end. Of course, the distance learning delivery modalities, yes, because it was mentioned that we cannot provide face-to-face classes until a COVID vaccine is available. So we have focused on the aspect of the learning continuity plan on distance learning delivery modalities. And the first mode, as we have identified it in our LCP, is we call it modular distance learning, which can take the form of either digital modular distance learning or printed modular distance learning. The printed self-learning module shall be used by learners adopting the printed modular distance learning. Let it also be made clear that the type of distance learning adopted will also be dependent on the learning resources that is available. Learners with devices at home like laptop, desktop, or tablet may adopt digital modular distance learning. The SLMs in the different digital formats such as flat PDF, education videos, audio lessons, and self-learning modules and others may be stored on CD, DVD, USB, flash drive, pen drive, and be delivered to homes. Actually po, the modular distance learning, when we say digital, will not be needing the internet, because if the family has access to the internet, we encourage them to do online distance learning, where the teacher will really facilitate synchronous lessons to engage the learners and make them actively participate in the discussions through the use of various technologies. Of course, the online distance learning will be more interactive, considering that there's this synchronous phase of learning where everybody, the teacher and the learners, would come in a meeting like what we're doing now and discuss lessons. They are able to do responses in real time. They may download materials from the internet, do the asynchronous part of the lessons after the online meetings, and they can be, of course, when you do this, you need a learning management system or related technologies, with some and at the same time use the DepEd Commons or the Learning Resources Portal uh, in making the online distance learning happen. The third type will be the TV and radio-based instruction, which will also utilize the self-learning modules converted into scripts for TV and radio classes implemented in areas with access to TV and radio. So all it will be supplemented by learning activity sheets that will be developed by the teachers as a way to assess the extent of learning and understanding by our learners relative to the concepts being covered. And they can also do other learning resources such as textbooks and other things that the teachers may create for the learners. This is the map of the learning resources that is needed to implement a specific distance learning delivery modality. All this means is the like if it's online, you should have access to the online digital resources. And then there is the blended distance learning delivery modality at the bottom part of the table, which is actually used when the school would combine the different subcategories of the distance learning delivery modality. What does this green color mean? If we have to prioritize because funds are not sufficient, ideally everything should be available to all types of learners. Our strand, the curriculum and instruction strand at the Department of Education, had to make a choice. So we say that online, if the resources would not be sufficient, is highly recommended for the high school learners, junior and senior high school, also digital modular. And then we say that the printed modules can be used in all grade levels. And the green for TV and radio is also indicating that if we do not have 13 channels for all the grades, what we need would be TV and radio lessons for the early grades, kindergarten to grade 3 particularly. Of course, the self-learning modules would be our primary resource. This has been developed by our field officials, and there is this national conformance review team that assessed all the prepared self-learning modules. The foundation for everything that we'll use, even if you do other distance learning delivery modality, will be the self-learning modules, which are also anchored on the most essential learning competencies I've shared earlier. The digital format will be uploaded in our LR portal. So this can be also accessed by anybody. I think those that are not from DepEd will have to make a request for them to be able to access, because we also would like to control the temptation for some unscrupulous people who have been trying to commercialize these things, which are supposed to be made available for free. Of course, we will also use textbooks, the learners' materials, and other MELCS-aligned teacher-made materials already mentioned in this screen. And then this is just a sample of the weekly home learning task or plan that the teacher should prepare. And these are the things that the teachers are expected to prepare even prior to the opening of the school year. And there will also be an individual learning monitoring plan so that the teachers and the parents would be updated or provided guidance on how to come up with interventions, especially for learners that may be struggling. And then the needs of the learners are listed, and then the date of monitoring, and also an indication of the status of the learner in terms of progress being insignificant, significant, or being mastered. I mean, we refer to the competencies identified. When we talk about formative assessment, there would be a competency-based task, and then the students are expected to complete the task as stated in the weekly home learning plan. And then they would submit such things to the teachers, and then they will assess. And the teachers will prepare the individual learning monitoring plan for the learners that are found to be needing extra attention from the teachers or the learning facilitators. For online distance learning, when we talk about summative tests, they can do use the online platform, but there would be some ways to make sure that the process will be credible. And then in our proposal, while we will still allow tests to be done, but the grading system will no longer consider the periodical test. What we will consider are the written outputs and the performance tasks that our learners will put in their learning portfolios as basis for their grades, whether they would get certain grades or not. The role of the learning facilitators would also be very critical. It could be the parent, an elder sibling, or a volunteer learning facilitator. Um, and even the teachers and other school officials are encouraged to serve as learning facilitators. And they should be guiding and supporting the child in terms of learning the lessons contained in the self-learning modules or in the different learning resources that are sent to them, and then accomplishing the home learning task as well. And then we will always be mindful of the need to protect the children. So this slide just assures everybody that the Department of Education has a child protection policy that has to be implemented. And Finally, I think I'm down to my last few slides. These are just points we would like to share with you. All efforts and initiatives to implement the learning continuity plan will greatly depend on family and community support. We need to prepare not only the schools, learners, administrators, and teaching and non-teaching personnel, but also the parents or guardians of the learners. And we shall endeavor to have strong engagement by national agencies, private organizations, and other stakeholders in contributing to educational needs, especially at this critical time. Of course, the implementation of the BLP will not be easy. It's not a perfect plan. We know that. Thus, we seek the understanding, support, and solidarity of our DepEd family and all our stakeholders, including the local government executives. I know there are mayors around who would be reacting to this talk in the true spirit of unity and bayanihan or mutual help. Um, uh, I've been a DepEd member of the DepEd family myself for the last 35 years. I started out as a classroom teacher in 1985. Mayor Carlo yata has not yet been born when I was already serving a vocational school as an industrial arts teacher. So I rose from the ranks. I understand how life is when you are a principal, a superintendent, a regional director. And I can affirm without fear of contradiction that in my life, our success in the efforts we did for the schools I served were largely attributed to the support extended by the barangay officials, by the town, by the city and municipal mayors and governors. And yun din po, that's what we are also expecting, that our efforts to make learning happen in the lives of our youngsters, of our young Filipinos, will not be difficult, because we know that our partners, including the non-government organizations, will help us. I just would like to end with this quote from Secretary Liling. As I have mentioned time and again, we should guarantee that whatever happens, be it armed conflict or natural disasters, education must continue in order to restore normalcy among our learners' lives. And the curriculum and instruction strand, which I had CI, so we also would always tell ourselves, to us, children are most important. Thank you very much po, and mabuhay.
Maraming salamat. Thank you very much, USec San Antonio, for that informative presentation to us. Sir, alam ko you're so busy, and may mga questions dito na I'd like to ask to you directly, no? Kasi dapat mamaya pa kami magko-question, baka
Opo,
bigla ka
yan.
nang lumayas.
Just let
So,
the presentation, pwede pong alisin na ng secretariat natin. So, I could,
may we also request for a copy of your presentation,
I'll
USec?
send it to
Okay
you
lang ba?
via email.
Yes, sir.
Pwede po.
Yes, sir, sa secretariat din. Pakitanggal na daw yung presentation ni USec.
Okay, I'm
Yan.
back to the screen where I can
Okay.
see all of
So,
you. So Mayor
yes.
Carlo, thank you for the support. Mayor Ma'am Mary Jane, thank you din po. I know you've been doing a lot for the kids in your own areas. I can confidently claim that
Yes.
yeah, our local officials always put education on top of their priority. So on behalf of
That's
Secretary
right.
Liling, thank you very much.
I know what you are going through right now in the Department of Education. Ang hirap because of the pandemic and because of what we are heading into right now. Sir, some questions that arise actually is based doon sa ating topic kasi readiness of the Philippines for distance learning, 'di ba? Considering the infrastructure, connections, the style and the delivery, how would you now assess, from your perspective and your expertise, how ready we are for distance learning? What do you think, sir?
Amie, as demonstrated by the dry runs, I think some of you have monitored what Nabotas has done. All other areas are doing it. I know in Region 1, in the Ilocos region, they're also doing it, if not now, next week, or in the coming weeks. There is a high potential that the quality of learning will not be adversely affected. This is my own personal and professional sense. First, because I know that learning happens when the child is motivated. So if we are effective in making the children excited to be engaged in the learning task, whether be it in the school or even at home, then learning will happen. The other thing that I know, I mean, the literature on academic achievement is conclusive, almost conclusive. I've not come across with any article saying that when the parents or when the home is engaged in the academic lives of their children, the achievement is higher. This is one area I always would remind my team. Even before COVID-19, when I was principal, I was superintendent, I would tell them, make sure that the family and the school is very much in close contact. And the family is challenged to really, sabi ko niyan, makialam kayo sa buhay akademiko ng mga anak nyo. Because if the and I can also say this even with my own wife, na nung mga kinder yung mga anak namin, she's not a teacher, but she would like prepare and coach like guide the children, our sons, in preparing their homeworks.
Mm.
They ended up being diligent. So if these two, there are so many other ingredients for effective learning, but if we can just make this happen, communication and collaboration between the family and the school will be sustained, and then the children are interested, and yes, as I've said, the families will make sure that the children are fully supported. Quality will still be there. In fact, it might even be higher this time, considering that the other complaint against Philippine education has also been addressed. Like, we could not make kids learn everything that we have listed in our curriculum guide because there were so many. So we are now saying we will just teach a few things, but these are the very important things that they will use so that they will continue to learn. So if this, so in terms of we understand we don't have the very ideal internet connection, etc., but we're making available other ways to make distance learning happen. So the first parang misconception in the past was when you talk about distance learning, it will just be online. It's not going to be the case in our schools when we open the school year. Ang ano po namin, survey, about more than half of the learners, 7 out of 10 would prefer the printed self-learning modules, even if the survey also indicates that there are only very few families without access to any form of gadget. Kakaunti lang po, 2 million, less than 2 million of the 20 million are telling us that they don't have cell phones, they don't have laptops, but still, many would want access to the printed self-learning modules. But again, when we prioritize, we will have to say, huwag na kayong magpa-imprinta, sayang ng mga kahoy na puputulin. So sasabihin namin, dito na kayo sa digital format na hindi online. Aralin na lang yung mga lessons using the laptop or the tablet or whatever. Thank you po.
Thank you, Yusek. You mentioned about the trial run done with other LGUs, but was there any trial run done in areas as remote as far-flung areas where there is no, yung mga bata tumatawid talaga ng ilog or umaakit ng mga bundok just to go to their school. So was there any trial run done in that kind of scenario? And
Our
also, you said, alam mo, lahat tayo, yung mga bata, di ba? Yung nasa classroom nga, sampakan ng kukulit niyan. Di ba? You cannot even, you cannot even contain their energy and make them focused. But now that we are separated by this COVID, this pandemic, and they will just be in their houses. What is the now? How can you assess? How can you evaluate? And how can you grade the improvement of the children? Parang yun lang yung mga questions niyan.
Sige po. Yung unang tanong is like dry run in far-flung areas. The national, yung pong nationally sanctioned dry run will happen during the first week of August. Ito mga minention ko, local initiatives of the DepEd offices always in partnership with our local officials. Katulad po ng ginawa sa Navotas. I know yung inklaro po sa instruction namin, when we do the national run, we will try out the different configurations of the distance learning delivery modality. How is this going to happen in an area that is so remote? How is this going to happen in an area that has access to internet? How is this going to happen in certain families? So we'll make sure that those would be addressed po when the national. And I think it would be covered kasi binabantayan. It would be covered by our social media and even mass media.
Okay, so magkakaroon pala nito in the first week on the first week of August. So we look forward to that.
Second po, and that's really
so,
a very...
siguro, yes sir, yes. Please go.
The second part of the question is really also a very common question asked of us. How do we assess and how do we protect the integrity of the assessment? Or, of course, we always would say the temptation is there for the parents to actually do the outputs that will be submitted. But that is not teaching the kids to be honest. So kung sasabihin natin, kaya nating maging honest, we have to start in actually making our children realize that what they should submit are the outputs that they have prepared. And then all the parents will do is perhaps provide the guidance, do some editing if they are not very comfortable with the outputs, but not naman sila na ang gagawa. So the other thing is, we know na, yun na nga po, I think although I would not been able to emphasize, the point is we actually have decided, although hindi pa po ito official because hindi pa na-approve ng executive committee, but essentially this is the recommendation of my strand. We will no longer administer quarterly examinations. We will modify the grading system. What we'll do will be essentially anchored on the portfolios. Yung pong authentic assessment, yung mga educators, they know this. You do authentic assessment, so the portfolios would be able to somehow demonstrate to the teacher the extent of understanding the learner would have. Ang mga ginawa po, halimbawa, some would even use the FB Messenger. Pwede po pala ito kung audio lang, walang singil ang libre. Kaya doon sa free FB, yung audio lang, ipapadala ni teacher para yung mga additional instruction. But the other thing po is, kung kaya namang mag-video, the child may be submitting. I mean, the families may submit sa mga early grade video of the child actually performing the task, demonstrating that they have learned a little about it or talking about the concept. And sinasabi ko nga po, perhaps in some areas where teachers can do home visits, the teachers do not have to administer a test. All they do is do a conversation with the child. And the conversation will eventually assure the teacher that the things he or she has seen on the portfolio of the child will be those that have come from the thoughts of the child. So yung pong ganito. So we'll really have to be very creative but there's going to be a way to still assess. That's why po kami naninindigan that while we also explored the idea of non-graded assessment, eventually our team, because this is something that is new, if we will also migrate to a non-graded scheme, this will again entail a lot of training on the part of the teachers, etc. So we decided we'll just use the existing grading system but modified so
Okay.
that we can tweak it to address the nature and the situations under COVID-19. So mayroon pa rin pong marka at pero walang exam. So ibang paraan po ang mga assessments. Yun po ang mga kaunti na lang po ang gagawin naming pagsasanay kasi maalam na nito ang mga teachers.
Okay. So with that, maraming salamat, USec. For all the other questions, we will just send it to you. Meron din, yan, email. Kasi meron pang mga question like, paano pagkatapos ng test run at may problema? And since the president already signed that he can change the date of the start of the school year, mababago pa ba daw yung school year ng start? No? So, yan, yung mga question na yan. So, but anyway, we would like to thank you, USec, Diosdado, San Antonio, for sharing with us the latest from the Department of Education. And to all
Maraming
of you and to all of you in DepEd, we wish you all the best and good luck. And talagang kaya natin yan.
Thank you very much din po for the privilege and thank you for accommodating my crazy schedule. It's really, I think this is the 6th event I have done today. I mean, I'm not complaining, but I feel that the government is getting more from us because you don't have to go to another place to attend another meeting. All you do is move to the next meeting room. So we've been optimized, we've been maximized, and of course, yun na nga po, since we are in the midst of all the preparations, there are many things that we have to really sort out. And what we assure again, our fellow Filipinos, pag tayo po ay nagtulungan, kayang-kaya natin ito. Salamat
kaya
po sa
natin
support.
Yan, sir. Marami pong salamat and God bless and please stay safe, stay healthy. We need you in DepEd para matuloy-tuloy po ang ating edukasyon sa ating mga bata. Sir, if you'd like to stay on, welcome pa rin. But if you need to go to another meeting, maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Permission to go?
You may. Thank you very much, USec.
God bless po. More power.
God bless. Okay. Thank you. And that is our Undersecretary of Education, Diosdado San Antonio, sharing with us his inputs on the readiness of the Philippines for distance learning. Maraming salamat po sa ating mga kaibigan sa Department of Education. And now, to continue our webinar for this afternoon, ako, kanina pa to, talaga itong person na ito ay she's always ready and she's always early. Yeah, naman, ang aking favorite. At present, she is the former San Fernando La Union mayor and was recognized by her outstanding leadership skills both here and abroad. To name a few, the Saranay Award, which is the highest award from the provincial government of La Union, and was first Filipino awardee of the Habitat Scroll of Honor Award given by the United Nations Center for Human Settlements in the Fukuoka in 2000. Her heart is a home both for her passion in serving the public and championing the education sector. She has been a lecturer before at the Ateneo School of Government, where she taught governance and the local government code. At present, she is a board of trustee of the St. Louis College in La Union. Lest we forget that she is also a Kaya Natin champion, and we are very proud of that, and a Sonia R. Lorenzo awardee. The person na hindi tumatanda, may fountain of youth and the energy talaga namang sobrang excellent energy. Ang aking, one of my idols, yan. Mayor Mary Jane Ortega. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mayor Amie. You're getting prettier And I would also like to take this opportunity to greet Kaya Natin. We are now having the doses of good governance. And I would like to say I'm very honored to give you one of the first doses. And I hope you will not get any indigestion. Anyway, to proceed, I would like to answer or share with you my thoughts. Are we ready for distance learning? And before we do that, I would like to talk about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In the 17, are we ready with the slides? Mayor Amie? Maurice, can we have the second slide, please? Yeah. Okay, the second slide. I have always emphasized the importance of aligning our educational thrust to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I will only talk about the first 5 out of the 17 because we said our most important challenge is to eradicate poverty. And because if you're poor, you're hungry. And when you're hungry, you are not healthy, you're malnourished. And when you're malnourished, your stomach is empty, nothing will get into your brains. And so you won't be able to get quality education and be exposed and learn about gender equality. So for today, we're talking about quality education. Can we achieve this through distance learning? Because of COVID, the problem is we just have to go for a new normal. We can go through the usual. And so we have now come up with distance learning. Will it address our problem of health? Will it has become worse because people have lost jobs. So now they're poorer, they're now more hungry, less food on the plate. And this is the challenge that we face. But we have to go on and see what can we do for education. And the third slide, please. The third slide, please. Okay. I can only talk to you about the city of San Fernando, and I'm not the mayor. Mayor Alfred Ortega is the mayor. I am, but I have been talking to the mayor and asking him for the state of readiness of our city. I've also talked to the IT personnel because the city of San Fernando, by the way, won the We Go Award, and that means that they have excelled in e-governance, and this can help us in our distance learning. I also have discussed this with the current Superintendent Rowena Banson and Dr. Joey Almeida, and these are the things that I discovered. 33 out of our 59 barangays, or 61%, have interconnectivity. So what will we do with the other 26 mountain barangays? So now I looked at the state of our schools. We have 27 schools for kindergarten, elementary, K1 to 8, and we have 6 secondary schools. They all have interconnectivity, but the quality of the signal is something that we have to improve. When I talked to Superintendent Rowena Banson, she said that they're waiting for the modules to be prepared by the National DepEd, but in case the modules will not arrive on time, on their own, they made it a point to start making their own modules for 1 quarter. So whether the modules from national government will come or not, they are ready for this contingency. DepEd has also, as I said, partnered with the Sangguniang Kabataan, and they have agreed that the SKs, instead of spending money on basketball, they will provide 1,000 tablets for the children, and DepEd will put up another 1,000 tablets as their counterpart. So we will have 2,000 tablets ready. However, the enrollment this year is rather high. Elementary, we have a total enrollment for the elementary of 10,033. We will have 2,000 tablets. Would the 8,000 children have tablets of their own. For the secondary, we have 8,236. If you give the 2,000 tablets to the elementary, that means the secondary will just have to take care for their own tablets. Or, as USec San Antonio mentioned, we will then have to go to the other type of learning and not rely on digital, but still on the printed modular. We have trained this morning because you see, San Fernando is a partner of Inquirer Foundation. And this morning, Dr. Milwilda Guevara had a meeting training for parents. We brought in parents and we thought 150 parents would join, but they were so interested to learn what is this distance learning about, how can we contribute, what can we do. We had about 280 or so parents who joined. And I'm very glad that the city of San Fernando, the DepEd, is ready to at least come up with sessions for 300 people. Tomorrow, we will have another session with Dr. Milwilda Guevara for teachers. And we expect 300 teachers to attend because we have 33 devices that can reach out to 300 people. So this is what they have been doing, busy coming up with what else can we do. And I will talk to you what St. Louis College has also done in the next slide. I am a member of the board of directors, board of trustees of St. Louis College. And you say, oh, it has nothing to do with lower education like elementary and secondary. But we have to see what are they doing for the college students. And perhaps we can follow what they're doing. Like St. Louis College improved their information center for enrollment. They published a pamphlet on the learning continuity plan for students and parents, and they gave a copy for the parents so that they would know what to expect and what the students would also be doing. They do daily updates in their school official website, Facebook, and Twitter accounts. So perhaps our DepEd for the city of San Fernando would now come up with a separate website for this and set up new information centers for the faculty members and also for student users. I would like to tell you that we started having computer rooms for our elementary students way back in 1999 when I was the mayor. And I was so impressed that whereas before we only had selected schools, now I learned all the 27 schools have computer rooms. So they are ready for distance learning. We also have learned that they have the flexible and the hybrid. And I learned from Undersecretary San Antonio that is also what we have to do. But one other thing that St. Louis College did is to come up with health and safety protocol. Have we also done that in our schools for the elementary and the secondary? And then on the next slide, please. My question comes, are these initiatives enough? So I called the head of the MIS of the city of San Fernando, Jeremy Deang, and I asked her, what are your plans for the 26 other barangays that are not connected? Because you see what DepEd San Fernando did, so, Superintendent Banson talked to the mayor, can we have this distance learning modules in the barangay instead of having it in the schools? Because we have only 27 schools and we have 59 barangays. And the barangay captains all agreed and they have come up with their terms. And one thing of having this in the barangay halls is that the barangay officials can even help out in social distancing. They can help out in coming up with the discipline. And of course, I told Superintendent Banson, for all of these things that the barangay does. So perhaps the cleaning and the disinfection should also now be done by DepEd. But anyway, we now come up with another. Distance learning will address the IQ, the intelligence quotient of the children. But then education is not just developing the IQ. Education should be multifaceted. It should develop the EQ, emotional quotient. Can you develop the emotional quotient if the child is only there with the computer or the module, printed module, of course, talking to the parents, and they would be very lucky if their parents can help them, if the parents have the educational background to help them. But how about those whose parents cannot help them? We also have to help them develop social quotient. They have to interact with people. And AQ is, what is AQ? If you know, it was the first time I heard of it, and I said, what is AQ? And it is adverse quotient. And this I learned from attorney Alberto Agra. But anyway, Synergia believes that we should follow the form that the late Secretary Jose Jesse Robredo, who was DILG Secretary but Mayor of Naga, that he formed the School Governing Council. He did not only tap the parents and the teachers, he even went out to tap the barangay captains, tap all the other members of the community. He tapped the businessmen, the religious sector, the civic sector, the alumni, and said, come and help this school. And I believe DepEd should strengthen this School Governance Council started by the late Mayor Secretary Robredo. In Synergia, we are doing that under the Executive Director, Milwilda Kepa. But how many of these schools are doing it? We want that it should be done by all the schools throughout the country. And when we go to the community, we should then tap the new graduates who don't have jobs. We should also tap the retirees who can be teachers to serve as community mentors in their barangays so that we can have the development of the whole character of the child. Can we now go to the next slide, please? The next slide, please. I already mentioned about this. And I talked about the Philippine Red Cross. I perhaps am a little prejudiced for, or I'm inclined more for joining and partnering with the Philippine Red Cross because the COVID-19 is a disaster. It is not a natural disaster. It is a disaster brought about by health. And so we have to be ready, make the children aware how health is important. We have to see to it that we know the blood type of each member of the community. We have to teach our children the basic first aid, the CPR. But how do you do that without contact? We have these modular sessions on distance learning. So these are the clubs that we hope can be brought in the School Governance Council. The next, please. The next. We have, it was already mentioned, you know, the usual tap, the radio stations, the cable networks. But here is another thing that I promised our local DepEd. I promised Superintendent Banson that I will develop educational videos, especially on local history. Because, you know, San Fernando is very rich on local history. We are the site where we won the first battle, and that is the Battle of Baxil Ridge. That was the one that started the victory up here in the north, went on to the north, and that is where we had Yamashita then bow down and he surrendered. We have to also have the children learn about the different places in the area. So if I will be doing this for San Fernando, I hope all the other places will have an old person like me do something for history. That would be for arts and culture. So use social media, make sure that it's not the fake news, make sure that we know how to use only what is factual. May I have the next slide, please? The next slide. And we believe it takes a village to raise a child. This is an African proverb. Senator Hillary Clinton used this and wrote a book, It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. We have a program here in San Fernando, and we say it takes a barangay to raise a child. So we are very happy that the barangay is an active partner now in distance learning with DepEd. We have to have the multi-sectoral approach by tapping all sectors and have the school governance council. We need the city to give us the data and share with us the data. We have to give guidance and counseling to the students who need it. But most important, let us not forget to give them their proper nutrition to improve their IQ. And now I'd like to talk more about IQ, EQ, SQ, and AQ. And let's go to the next slide, please. IQ. The definition of IQ is a measure of one's comprehension, ability to solve math problems, retain information, recall subject matter, all for the brain. But what is important is EQ, the emotional quotient, which is the measure of one's ability to maintain or be at peace with others. Be responsible, be honest, be humble, be genuine, be considerate. And if you are a hermit working alone or working only with the members of your family, it's like having a very small area. You are not able to really reach out to others. And for SQ, let's go to SQ, please. SQ is the measure of one's ability to build a network of friends and maintain it over a long period of time. And I'm so happy, and I look back and I said, have I maintained my classmates in high school? Sorry, but for elementary, I have not been able to maintain any of them. But I have maintained contact with them, and we have this network. And all the friends that I have met in Kaya Natin, in Sinergia, I have made sure that I have maintained it and that we are able to build this. And through this, it has helped our emotional quotient. And adversity quotient, I heard it, as I said, from Attorney Agra, and it is a measure of one's ability to go through rough patches in life, come out without losing one's mind. And how do you do this? You learn it through sports. You see, in sports, you learn that you cannot win every time. You may win, and when you win, you have to learn to be sportsmanlike and to be magnanimous in victory. If you lose, you have to learn to take it. Take the loss, but do not let that break your spirit, that you should go on and come up with whatever best you can do. And, one loss is not the end of one's life. And so the next slide, please. Next slide. I would like to quote Attorney Alberto Agra, who is the president of Filipinas Obstacle Sports. We cannot have basketball because it's a contact sport. We cannot have soccer or baseball, they're contact sports. But we can have we can have track and field, we can have tennis, we can have badminton. But children have to be engaged in sports and not just be in front of a computer, because as Attorney Agra said, AQ determines who will give up in face of troubles. You may have troubles. We are having troubles, but we're not giving up. We're looking for a way. We're looking for success. We don't want anybody to abandon their family, nor their families to abandon them. We want to develop a child who will decide that quitting life's journey is not right. We have to develop him to be a multifaceted human being. And we as parents as mentors, teachers, members of the community, let us not prepare the road for our children. Rather, let us prepare our children for the road, either it be a paved road or a rough road. Let us prepare them and make them the victors over all of these challenges. We now are faced with the challenge of COVID. Let us make sure that we are prepared for this road. Let us not be cowed into paralysis. Let us study what and how can we help so that we can overcome the challenges of COVID. This is my presentation. We are ready. We will be even more ready. The city of San Fernando will have all the 26 not connected barangays connected before the end of the year. They will have the whole plaza connected. They will have the whole area of the city hall connected. Do you know that they have about 500 computers? All their employees, 700 employees, know how to use the computers. If all these employees of the city would help out and be mentors for distance learning, I think I can say we are ready. But let us not stop there. Let us develop not only IQ, but EQ, SQ, and AQ. And may you have a pleasant afternoon and say, we can do it. And I can say, thank you to Kaya Natin. This is the first dose of our medicine, which I feel hopefully would make us strong. Thank you, Mayor.
Wow, thank you very much, Mayor Mary Jane. As always, really, we are so lucky to hear from you again. Ang dami talaga natututunan pag ikaw talagang nag-share. And ikaw yung pang salbo namin for the first dose. Yan talaga naman.
So, sana yung sabi nga nila sa Ilocano, busak. Sabi sa Tagalog, buena mano, hindi ba?
Yes.
Kaya sana magaan yung buena mano. Kaya let us all smile and together we let us beat COVID.
Thank you, Mayor. And some questions here on. I hope you don't mind me asking some questions. With the San Fernando experience, that you mentioned that they're more or less ready for the distance learning. What was the common problem which was encountered by the LGU as you prepare for this distance learning? Would you know, Mayor?
Well, the common problem is the 26 barangays that are not connected. All of a sudden, you have DepEd asking, can we use the barangay halls? And, you know, we've always been used to having the schools being held in schools. That's why you have the schools there. And now they want it for distance learning. So it's a challenge. The other challenge is coming up with the funding. As I said, sure, they're now giving 1,000 and 2,000. What can 2,000 tablets do for 10,000 students? So that would be another problem that they would encounter. And if not everybody can go through digital instruction, then you now have to start printing all of these. But we can meet those challenges. I'm very glad that our mayor, Alfred Ortega, is very closely working with our Superintendent Manson. And I don't belong to I am not with government, but I am the NGO. I am the civil society. I am the Kaya Natin and the Synergia mentor. So I am the Pangulo. But we have to be there. Makialam tayo. And this is my challenge. Let us not just sit back and say, problema yan ang DepEd. You see, I am a second generation educator. My father, like USec Antonio, rose from the ranks from teacher, and he retired as assistant director of vocational education after 40 years. So I said, I want to be a teacher. And wherever I am, I also say, I have to teach, I have to reach out, I have to help.
Wow. But Mayor, Mayor, was there any resistance when you were introducing the distance learning from the community? Was there any resistance that you have encountered? Say,
No, I was mayor in 1998.
yeah.
And then in 1999, I borrowed money from the World Bank to put up these computer rooms. And computer at the time was not even heard of for high school. And I was introducing it for elementary.
Wow.
But I couldn't do it in all of these schools. But I'm so glad I have bowed out of office. If I started it 21 years ago, after 21 years, all of the schools have computer rooms. I am very glad that we joined WeGo. This is an organization that was formed by the late Mayor Park Wonsoon of Seoul. And so when I was mayor, I was active with WeGo, and the city has continued their partnership. In fact, for 1 year, for the first year, it was San Fernando that won the best in WeGovernance. And so I'm very glad that we now are there, ready for the problem of deaf enemies.
Okay, I really like what you mentioned, that this is really getting ready is another thing, but continue improving is another step ahead.
Innovation.
So,
and at times we have to come up with crazy ideas. People may think you're crazy the moment you introduce it, but after some time, they may just say, why not? And so let us not be confined. And as I said, let us not be hermits. Let us continue interacting. And that is why I'm so glad to see you virtually, Mayor Amie.
well, me too. I miss you so much personally. I'm sending my virtual hugs to you and kisses. Mwah, mwah, mwah. So on that note, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mayor Mary Jane, for that very inspiring presentation. I learned a lot, and good luck to San Fernando. Good luck to you. I will always request you to please stay safe and be healthy and be lively. I don't need to ask you to be pretty because you're always pretty. So, so I'll see you around hopefully soon, that we will get over this pandemic. And please do take care. Thank you very much. You can stay around now for Vigan.
Can I have one last word?
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Thank you to Kaya Natin for not discriminating against senior citizens. I'm now turning 80, and with COVID, they always say, "Oh, senior citizens stay at home. Senior citizens don't go out." It's as if we cannot contribute anything. But Kaya Natin believes in tapping senior citizens. Thank you, Kaya Natin. Hello, Harvey. Thank you.
Because the wisdom is with our senior citizen. You don't even look like a senior citizen, ma'am, ha? Walang bola yan, ha? You're so lively. Yeah, so nice to see you. Thank you very much, Mayor Mary Jane Ortega. Maraming pong salamat. And you can stay around, ma'am, and you can also give questions later on, ask questions later on. So to continue, nandiyan na ba ang ating gwapong-gwapong mayor from the north also? There you are. Yan ang paborito ko eh. Yan naman. So at present, he is the incumbent mayor of Vigan City, Ilocos Sur Province. And aside from his duties as the mayor, napakasipag po niyan, he is also serving as the Regional Development Council, Region 1 Chairperson. Under his outstanding leadership, Vigan City was awarded being the Regional Outstanding Nutrition Program Implementer for Region 1 in 2017 and under the city category. He is also a fellow on another K and Sleep webinar program for mayor. Ang napakasipag, batang-bata, isa sa mga paborito ko rin yan. Ako, I love his city. You should go to Vigan soon after the pandemic. Huwag mo na kayo pumunta doon. May pandemic. Pero once it's clear and it's okay, guys, never miss Vigan. My favorite, Mayor Carlo Medina. Magandang hapon sa iyo, Mayor. Mukhang nasa opisina ka pati kayong naka-face mask.
Yes, ma'am. Pasensya na po. Nasa office pa po kasi. Hi to Tita Amie.
Napakasipag.
Hello po to Tita MJ. Thank you po sa KN. Thank you rin po kay USec San Antonio. Palagi po kami nagkikita regarding sa mga questions po rin namin regarding sa programs ng DepEd. Okay lang po ba mag-share screen po ako?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay na po?
Wala.
Yes po.
Okay na? Okay. Ginawa ko po kasi yung presentation with the idea of presenting the whole programs of the city, including our programs nung hindi pa po COVID. But just to facilitate po, i-skip na lang po natin lahat to. Go straight na lang po tayo sa mga activities po namin during COVID and kung ano po yung mga binaplano namin gawin in the future para lang po mapabilis lang po natin. Skip na lang po natin. If you want a copy of the presentation, it's okay. Pwede po kaming mag-send. This covers our program from ECCD all the way to our programs for our ALS, even our programs for our SPED. So, nandito naman po lahat. Skip na lang po natin lahat. Medyo mabagaw. So, as a background po, Vigan has been very lucky these past few months. Iisa pa lang po ang naging COVID positive case namin. And she is an OFW who finished her quarantine. Nag-quarantine po siya actually ng 45 days sa Manila. But unfortunately, nung mass exodus po at pinauwi po silang lahat dito, nakakuha po siya ng sakit on her way here. But we are very happy to report na okay naman na po siya. She recovered, nakailang negative test na rin po siya, and she will be giving birth anytime now. And we are hoping na sana kunin po kaming ninong at ninang yung buong task force. So what did we do during the COVID pandemic? So umpisa pa lang, we established the Vigan COVID Task Force with the idea na dapat magkita-kita kami palagi para mapag-usapan po namin yung mga nagiging problema, nagiging hiccups, yung nagiging needs ng aming constituents during the COVID pandemic, especially the beginning part. Kasi ang dami pong mga questions na hindi po na-address, ang dami pong mga nangyayari na nahuhuli po ang guidelines. So we decided to do our meeting every 3 p.m. on the afternoon, Monday to Saturday. Special request lang ang Sunday para makapahinga naman daw yung mga staff po namin just to do and just to talk about yung mga needs and concerns po sa amin. So one part of kung bakit po namin ginagawa to is to be open to our constituents. Open po ang meetings natin, pwede pong pumunta kung sino man pong media ang gusto pong mag-cover. At the same time po, lahat po ng napag-usap. Especially the beginning part. Kasi ang dami po.
Sorry.
At the same time po, sinama po namin ang Public Relations and Information Officer namin para lahat po ng queries, lahat ng questions, lahat po ng tanong in social media, masasagot rin po namin kagad ito. At the same time, lahat po ng issuances, lahat po ng mga decisions that is approved by the IATF, sinesend na po namin through social media para malaman po ng mga constituents po namin kung ano po yung mga guidelines po natin ngayon. We have to be very open to them para lang po hindi sila magkagulo lahat. So what did we do? We provided assistance to our displaced workers. Kung makikita nyo po yung nasa center picture po, gabi po yan na nagbigay po kami ng assistance. This is separate from the SAP. Nagbigay po kami on top of SAP for our displaced workers. Nakikita nyo nga po ang mass transportation pa noon. And with the help of the PNP, the BJMP, the BFP, and our maritime police, talaga pong sila yung tumulong sa atin to ensure public safety within our city. Inactivate rin po namin ang price monitoring team. Talaga pong nag-iikot sila just to check po yung mga prices, not just in groceries but also in our market for farm produce, para lang po masigurado po kung ano po yung mga binebenta nila. We provided thick pass slips for our workers in the city para mas mabilis po nung meron pa po kaming checkpoint, para hindi na po sila i-check araw-araw ng mga requirements nila. Basta meron po yung pink ID, dire-diretso na po papasok yung mga yan. Continuous po ang disinfection sanitation namin sa aming mga government facilities, and at the same time po nag-provide na rin po kami ng help desk na one-stop shop po na pupuntahan po ng ating mga LSI para po mas madali ang kanilang pagbalik sa kanilang mga provinces. Kinonvert na po namin tong LSI help desk po na to, dinagdag na rin po namin yung parang nagre-require sa mga travel authority. Kailangan po kasi ng medical and travel authority from the PNP. So ginawa na po namin siyang one-stop shop para hindi na po nila kailangan pumunta sa PNP na rin. So anong ginawa na namin para makaabot na tayo sa new normal? Ano na yung mga ginawa natin para ma-maintain natin kung ano yung mga ginagawa natin ngayon para to continue our way of life na hindi naman po madi-disrupt lahat. So, nag-create po kami ng transition team in April para pag-usapan lang kung ano yung mga programs and projects na kailangan namin gawin to jumpstart the economy, jumpstart everything that we have to do para lang po makita ng community na tumatakbo pa rin ang gobyerno nila, na nag-iisip pa rin po ang gobyerno nila kung ano po ang kakabuti nila. So, part of this was education. So, nag-conduct po kami ng school board meetings, sunod-sunod po talaga tong mga meetings na to. And talaga pong datos po ang kinailangan namin. Palagi po namin sinasabi na hindi po na kami makakapag-decide without the proper data that we would need. So out of 14,433 as of June 9, ang lumalabas po sa ating mga learners, gusto po nila modular. About 7,800 of them. At the same time, ang lumalabas rin naman po, 9,200 ang meron pong mga smartphone. This would be very important on the programs and projects that we will be presenting later. Pero kahit po ganun ang nangyayari, tinuloy-tuloy po pa rin natin yung mga ginagawa natin for education. So para sa ating mga children with disabilities, yung mga teachers crew natin from our Stimulation Therapeutic Activity Center, sila na po ang gumawa ng module na gagawin po ng mga parents nila sa bahay nila. At the same time, meron na rin mga home activities to para tuloy-tuloy pa rin po yung pag-aaral po ng ating mga SPED students. At the same time, meron silang mga home visitations para ma-monitor rin kung talaga pong may natututunan tong mga bata po natin ito. Because of what happened, yung supplemental feeding po medyo nagka-problema. But because we want to continue this program, house to house na rin po namin ang supplemental feeding po ng Vigan. And this is in partnership with the Parents Association of our daycare students na talagang lahat po ng pwede nilang gawin tinutulong na po sa city para lang po matuloy itong programa na to. Tumutulong po sila magluto sa mga daycares, then kukunin po nila yung mga pagkain na aside sa kanilang mga purok at sila po ang magdadala sa mga purok po na ito at sila na po magdi-distribute. Sila na po talaga ang katulungan po namin para dito. This would be important also later kung ano po yung mga kailangan natin gawin for our new normal for education. And madami po nag-request na may graduation daw ang ECCD, kaya may dala-dala po talaga ang tarpaulin tong mga teachers natin pumunta sa bawat bahay ng mga estudyante natin para lang po mapicturean po sila. Nag-graduate rin po daw noon. So, what are our future plans? Ano pa ang kailangan natin gawin for education para ma-ensure na safe ang ating mga learners? We are very lucky with our school board at during the start of my second term, nag-meeting po ang lahat ng mga people's organizations, NGOs, CSOs, and they decided on sino po yung mga sasali sa mga special bodies. And UAP actually proposed nga masali po daw sila sa ating school board. Kasi marami po daw silang maitutulong in terms of planning, in terms of designs of classroom, in terms of monitoring kung ano man po yung mga pinapatayo doon. So, ang una po nilang ginawa ngayon is sila po ang nag-design ng mga hand washing facilities ng mga schools na ipapatayo po namin. Rene-align po namin yung pondo ng SEF, kinuha po namin yung pondo na gagamitin namin sa RIAA dapat at ginawa na lang po namin na bawat school magkakaroon po ng 10 hand washing areas. For the idea na kung mag face-to-face man po talaga, meron po tayong mga safety measures na maghugas muna sila bago sila umabot sa kanilang mga classrooms. Tinutuloy pa rin po namin yung central kitchen. Ang idea po kasi talaga is kung matuloy po ang face-to-face, hindi na po lalabas yung mga bata sa mga classroom nila, hindi na sila mag-iikot, papakainin na lang sila sa table nila, hindi na sila makikipaghalubilo para safe rin po sila sa kanilang mga classmates. So we have to finish the central kitchen which is ongoing right now and we are targeting na sana matapos by August or September. Nagpro-provide na rin po kami ng technical equipment for our ECCD centers. Talaga pong kailangan more modern na po kasi yun na po yung trust natin ngayon. We'll be providing laptops and projectors to them para po maengganyo yung mga bata na pumasok. While at the same time, scheduling them para hindi po sabay-sabay silang papasok. We're very lucky here in Vigan na because of our programs regarding family planning, ang births po namin medyo bumaba na. Umabot na kami sa mga 450 na lang in a year. So yun na lang po yung mga binabantayan namin. So pag titingnan nyo, if you divide that with our 39 barangays, mga 12 na lang siguro ang bawat daycare na tinatanggap nila. So we have collaborated with Synergia, kagaya nga po yung sabi ni Tita MJ. Kasali nga po kami ngayon sa workshop again, yung mga teachers po namin for Right Shop for these remote learning modules. And at the same time, ayusin rin po namin para po yung sa workshop rin for our parents. Magandang malaking tulong po yun. Kaya po napapasalamat kami with Ma'am Nene and Synergia. We are partnering with Tech4Ed para naman po sa ating K-12 for our senior high schools para po online na lang sila, pupunta na lang sila sa mga facilities po namin, doon na sila mag-aaral para po maka-acquire sila ng TESDA certificate na requirement po for their graduation during for their K-12 education. We are trying to partner with Knowledge Channel because meron po kasing sariling TV station ang City of Vigan, which is Channel 9, Vigan. Gusto po sana namin na kunin yung mga videos nila at ipapalabas po dito, not as part of our supplemental education program. Hindi po siya ang main mode of our program, pero siya po ay makakatulong para sa mga kabataan natin na manood lang sila, may matututunan pa rin po sila. We are fast tracking the purchase of our equipment. We partnered with Radyo Pilipinas under the PCOO para magkaroon na rin po kami ng sariling radio station with the idea na maglalabas rin po kami ng mga educational materials rin po doon. Medyo mahal lang po pero pinili na rin po namin na bilhin yung mahal na equipment para hindi lang po Vigan na makinabang. Ang idea po is aabot to mostly, makatabaan po niya ang buong Ilocos Sur. With the idea na kung ano man po yung ilabas namin dito, hopefully makatulong rin po, hindi lang sa mga taga-Vigan, but also to our mga katabing bayan. Bakit importante yung mga pinakita namin kanina ng mga programa? Kasi yun yung magiging basis natin kung ano yung mga kailangan natin gawin. Hindi ko na linagay dito, gusto ko na lang sana magkwento. Nakita natin na ang gusto ng mga parents natin are modular, which entails paper na pipirmaan, na sasagutan, na iuwi po ng mga estudyante at doon po nila sasagutin. Ang rough estimate po namin na magagastos lang po namin for coupon bond for our modules is 76 million. Wala po kaming ganong pondo. Ang pondo po ng City Government of Vigan, our annual budget is 550 million. That would be more than 10%. Modules pa lang po yun. paano pa po yung learning activity sheets nila? Doon po sila sasagot ng mga worksheet, yung mga test nila, doon sila sasagot ng mga assignments nila. That would entail another 56 million. Coupon ban pa lang po ulit yon. So, ang laki po talaga ng gastos pag iniisip natin ang modular. But there are certain ways na pwede nating gawin para hindi po tayo umabot sa ganon. One option na pinag-isipan po namin is gawin po namin yung mga subjects po divided by 2. Para ngayon, buwan na to, English lang sa barangay na to. Yung isang barangay naman, math naman. Para pag natapos na silang dalawa, palitan naman sila ng modules. Para po hindi ganun kalaki ang mga gastos namin. Another idea na yun po yung pinapilot namin ngayon, sinusubukan na po namin sa mga barangays, is dahil po merong 9,000 out of 14,000 families, meron po daw smart devices, ang gagawin po namin ay pupunta po kami sa mga barangay halls po namin, magdadala po kami ng pocket wifi, i-open po namin ito para pwede po mag-connect ang mga parents dito, at mag-provide po kami ng downloadable forms, PDF files, na pwede po nila i-download. Pag na-download na nila, nasa cellphone na nila, pwede na nila iuwi. Hindi na nila kailangan ng internet connection para dito. Inisip namin to para makasave rin po sa amin. Ang babayaran lang po namin dito, pocket wifi lang. May ikot naman po namin ang buong barangay. Every week pwede po namin gawin to. So there are certain things that you can do, very practical things, to ensure that education continues also. These are just some of yung mga naiisip nga po namin dito para lang po masigurado na tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang edukasyon sa ating syudad. But going to that sense na gumagawa tayo ng mga solusyon, up to now, alam po namin na meron pa rin pong mga hindrances, meron pa rin pong paghihirap. As you know, sinabi ko kanina, 50 plus millions ang kakailanganin namin sa answer sheet. Kailangan pa rin po namin yun. Kasi hindi naman pwedeng i-download yung mga answer sheets nila tapos sasagutan nila sa cellphone, then sesend sa teacher. Magkakagulo lang po yun. So dapat, kung blended po ang ating modules, dapat po ang ating answer sheets iisa naman. Kasi hindi pwedeng magkagulo sila. So ang iniisip namin sa answer sheets, dapat pen and paper talaga. But it would entail 56 million nga. Yung nga po yung palagi namin sinasabi. So it would take a lot of saving, a lot of tightening of our belt para lang siguro maabot yung 56 million na yon with the help of our DepEd family and with the help of our community. Tingin naman po namin pwede natin pagtulong-tulungan po to. Paano naman po kung meron na nga yung ganon? Paano naman natin dadalhin sa mga parents? Kaya nga po nakita nyo doon sa supplemental feeding, parents po ang nagdadala ng pagkain. And this is the idea na kukunin rin po ng PTA sa mga schools natin, at saka na lang po nila idadalhin sa kanilang mga purok. Hindi naman po kailangan na araw-araw na every week pumunta po yung lahat ng parents. Pwede naman pong 3 lang, 2 lang, then sila na po tutulong sa atin na mag-ikot po sa mga barangay. It takes a community talaga to make this work. It will take all of our ingenuity, all of our blood, sweat, and tears para lang po matuloy po itong program na to. Am I 100% confident that it will succeed? Honestly, no. Pero kailangan pa rin po natin gawin eh. Ako, ang iniisip ko na nga, this year would be a lost year for education eh. Kasi nakatakot po talaga yung mangyari because parang ang project na ganito dapat ipapilot mo for 3 years bago mo masabing successful eh. Pero ipapilot natin sa buong Pilipinas, isasaang alang-alang natin yung edukasyon ng ating mga kabataan. So I'm hoping na sana ma-realize rin po nila to and just consider this a lost year. Kung grade 4 ka ngayon, mag-maintain ka na lang, ihasain na lang natin yung math mo, hasain na lang natin yung English mo, para mas mabuti na lang yung kalabasa mo, para pagpasok mo ng grade 5 next year, mas madali ka na lang na aangat na sa mga year levels mo. I'm still advocating for face-to-face, given na low risk ka naman. But unfortunately, sinabi na nga po ni Presidente na by January pa po daw to. But we can do a lot of things that is more economical if we do face-to-face. Pwede naman pong proper distancing ang mga chairs. Pwede naman pong may face mask lahat. Pwede naman pong may mask lahat. Pwede naman pong maghugas ang mga bata bago sila pumasok. There are certain health standards that we can do that would ensure yung kalusugan ng ating mga learners na papasok po sa ating schools. And I think kailangan po aralin rin po ito ng DepEd. No offense to DepEd, palagi po kasing sinasabi ng ganda po nung sa nangyari sa Navotas. That's the best case scenario. Palagi po namin sinasabi that's the best case scenario. Pero paano naman po sa mga GIDA areas? Paano naman po sa mga areas po na yung mga nanay at tatay hirap na nga magbasa, mahirap na magsulat? Paano po sila matuturuan? Paano po yung mga areas na yung tatay nagtatrabaho, yung nanay nagtatrabaho, sino kasama ng mga bata sa bahay? Kaya nga po nila pinapapasok para makapagtrabaho rin po sila. So there are still questions that we have to answer. And I think the next few months would be very telling kung successful po ba itong program na ito, itong project na to. I hope it will be successful. Buong puso ko po na sinasabi na I'm really hoping na sana maging successful po to. But if dumating po talaga makita natin, we have to reassess, we have to reevaluate kung kailangan po bang baguhin ulit. Marami pa po kong gustong i-share sana, but alam ko naman po may time po tayong lahat. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I can provide our presentation right now. If you want to have, if you want questions thrown to me, pwede niyo po kaming email palagi dito sa Vigan. And hopefully po, kung matapos po lahat po ng participants po dito, especially Tita Amie, Tita MJ, sana mabisita niyo po ulit kami dito sa Vigan.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mayor Carlo Medina. Alam mo ba, Mayor, the last I checked my record, last time ako nagpunta dyan sa Vigan was about 4 years ago. Tama, parang 4 years ago. Tagal na, no? But anyway, thank you very much for sharing your presentation to us on what you're doing in Vigan. At ano ka nga para kang si Mayor Mary Jane, ahead na kayo. Ngayon, pinaplano nyo na pag natapos yung COVID, how moving forward, di ba? So, meron lang konting question dito, Mayor. Pagdating po ba dito sa inyong preparation, ano yung naging encounter mo, aside from the budget, that you have encountered in preparing for yung engaging the community for this education preparation ng mga bata? Ano yung mga na-encounter mo problems?
Actually po, doon po ako na tatakot. Kasi every time po na nakakausap ko po ang ating mga PTAs, ang ating mga parents, pati po sila hindi po nila alam kung anong gagawin nila. They want to help, but unfortunately, they don't know what to do. Gusto nilang turuan ang mga anak nila, but they don't have the same patience as our teachers. So kailangan po sana train po tayo ng ating teachers, train po tayo ng ng ating mga learners. Ang kailangan po natin i-train. Ang kailangan po natin i-train ngayon. Ang kailangan po natin i-train talaga ngayon mga magulang, which is yung pong ginagawa ng Synergia ngayon. Sana i-adapt rin po ito ng DepEd, and hopefully po talaga maging successful to itong programa pong ito.
Actually, yan yung mga narinig kong problema ngayon. No? It's really more of the parents, the guardians, yung mga kasamang adult ng mga bata sa bahay. That we need them to be oriented, no? What's coming? Kasi yung mga bata, dinadala lang natin yun sa eskwelahan. So, we do not know what's happening after that. Papakita sa iyo, report card. Except for those, yung mga masisipag na mga nanay at tatay na nakatutok talaga, no? Na they really make sure that their children study very well and they do their homework and they are very, very diligent in making all those school works, no? Pero may mga magulang, ako sabi ko nga, lumaki yung mga anak ko, pag nagpapaturo yun, sasabihin ko, huwag mo na akong tanungin, baka lalo kang bumagsak. So, and there are a lot of me out there. But anyway, So yun yung sa community, you got volunteers, no? So ito yun, talagang sila yung nakisama in your preparation. So
Opo.
ikaw, Mayor, ang tanong ko lang, the question ko to you, do you think we're ready? Ready for our distance learning?
Honestly po, mukhang for me personally and what I'm seeing here in Vigan, may mga questions pa po kami. Mukhang hindi pa po tayo handa. Wala pa po yung modules coming from DepEd. Sinabi po nila after our last meeting, meron na pong pondo na gagamitin para sa pag-reproduce ng mga modules. Up to now, wala pa rin po. And to think po na gusto na po naming i-pilot sana within the earliest possible time para makita po natin kung ano po yung sistema dito sa Vigan. Yung mga teachers po sanay po sa face-to-face teaching. Until now, hindi po nila alam kung anong gagawin nila sa distance learning. So, marami pa pong questions na I hope kaya nating sagutin kagad within the next month. Kasi if worst comes to worst at hindi po masagot to, sana i-consider po talaga nila na i-postpone muna for another month. Then mag-adjust na lang tayo for another month sa ending of classes.
Okay. So maraming salamat. For those who wants na magtanong pa kay Mayor, no, please send us your questions and we will send it to them and we will try to answer your questions via email. No? Talagang itong pandemic na to changed a lot of normal way of doing things. So even now, we are so used to be together and having the session together, and we can really see each other and feel each other's energy together. But we are still connected through this technology of digital, and we are still very, very, very hopeful. Ika nga, pero before anyone leave, we are going to try to have a photo shoot. Sabi ko kanina sa secretariat, bago tayo magbabay to each other, after I synthesize what we have discussed, we will try to have a photo shoot with everyone on the screen, and binigyan ko ng challenge ang ating secretary. So we will try later on. So before we end our webinar this afternoon, allow me to just put a little summarization of what we have discussed. And we are so grateful to our speakers for this afternoon. Alam ko, kahit nasa bahay ang mga yan o nasa opisina yung mga yan, walang tigil sa pagtatrabaho, walang tigil sa pagtulong sa komunidad, pagtulong sa ating mga kababayan. And what USec mentioned a while ago, there are principles that they are following right now, which is protect the health, safety, and well-being, ensure learning continuity, facilitate the safe return of their teachers and non-teaching personnel. They try to be sensitive. They continue to link and bind with each other, no? And what caught my attention, what he mentioned was they trimmed down the essential competencies. Yun, hindi ko na itanong kung ano yung binawas nila. How were they able to identify which is essential and non-essential? So binawasan nila, no? So that took I took note of that, and then I heard when he said that learning must be a continuing process. Tuloy-tuloy dapat yan. And I totally agree with our DepEd. But with the pandemic right now, we are also challenged on that continuity. And then Mayor MJ kanina shared with us the advancement of San Fernando. Even if she's not the sitting mayor right now, she is very, very active in making sure, even before, para na siyang may pandemic noon, nauna na siyang mag-prepare. So that's why they are so prepared when this pandemic came in. There are just these words that really caught my attention. Ito yung developing and continuing that intelligent quotient, the emotional quotient, the social quotient, the adversity quotient. Those are the things that we have to really continue honing and continue learning, no, and continue experiencing. Kasi hindi all the time, I believe now that our children is at home, maraming gains yan eh. Maraming pros and cons. But while you are together, you get to learn also the emotional quotient of your parents, yung mga anak nyo, ganito pala sila. Mas marami kayong natututunan together. And then, it takes a village to raise a child. It's true. It really takes a village to raise a child. And with that movement made by Mayor MJ even before, involving the community is very, very important. That's why it's not only a village. Tayo dito, it takes a community, it takes a barangay to educate a child, no? So to learn to raise a child. So maraming salamat sa ating talino, napakasipag na Mayor Mary Jane. Kahit nasa NGO yan, walang tigil yan. And of course, Mayor Carlo shared with us what they have done in the city of Vigan. They have prepared, they have programs even before the COVID. I know that because I have been in Vigan several times and Mayor have shared what they are doing in Vigan. Ang dami nilang ginagawa. And when this COVID came in, when this pandemic came, they took that initiative again to regroup, no, and try to find out the best way to address it. So talagang inuna nila is education. And what really caught my attention was the learners survey form. Inalam nila kung ano ang mas komportable para sa mga bata. So kasi yung feedback ngayon parang hiwa-hiwalay. Sinasabi ng DepEd, ito dito modular, ito dito radio and TV, ito internet. Parang, ha? Everyone was, ano nga uli yun? Saan ba tayo? With due respect to DepEd, of course, this is a pandemic. We do not know what we're supposed to do. Diba? So, pero yung magandang ginawa ng Vigan, sinurvey nila, ano yung mas kung magiging komportable sa inyo. Huwag nating isama yung face-to-face. No? So, that was very, very good. And as they prepare, within this scenario of pandemic, they have prepare also their infrastructures. That includes na pag natapos na at pag nagdesisyon ng face-to-face, ready tayo. Pag nagdesisyon ng digital, ready tayo. So he made sure that his city, like San Fernando, is prepared, no, to address anumang sitwasyon, may COVID man o wala. So from the infrastructure, may hand washing, you have even the kitchen, they have prepared it. And then yung technical equipments. So, Vigan actually prepared the ways and means to maximize all resources. But again, talagang napakahirap. And I do understand ang sinasabi ng ating mga speakers that it's not going to be an easy task. Along the way, we will encounter a lot of problems. Sabi nga, kahit mag-test run ang DepEd on the first week of August in preparation for the class opening, I don't think we will be able to, sabi nga ni Mayor, hindi yan ganyan kadali, no? Yung test run na yan na ginagawa dapat for 3 years or something, gagawin lang natin a short period of time. But I do believe that learning is a continuing process. And sa inyong lahat na nag-stay with us for this afternoon, maraming salamat po. At nakikita ko kayo, parang mga wala kayong picture. It's only your names. So how can we have a photo shoot, di ba? Pero at any rate, we would like, ayun pala si Konsihala Bernadette Olivares. I can see you. How are you, ma'am? Pumapayat. No? So talaga naman. And to all of you, hi. I hope you can go online. George Pegalan, hello. Yan. So we will now take a photo shoot before we say goodbye to all of you. Maraming salamat po to our dear speakers, DepEd, Mayor Mary Jane, love you, ma'am.
Wow.
And to
congratulations,
may
Mayor Amie.
kumpare. Oo nga, ako ang napasala. Kung may kumparing mayor ng Gan City, Mayor Carlo Medina, ako yung isinalang talaga naman, di ba? would you believe, kinakabahan ako kasi this is my first time to facilitate and moderate a webinar. And it's really, 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 really very, very nice feeling. Nice to see all of you. And again, 12, because it is our 12th year anniversary, we will be having more webinars of different topics later on, which will be moderated by some of our champions also from Kaya Natin. And to all of you, maraming salamat. To Kaya Natin, happy 12th anniversary. To our Secretariat, Kaya Natin Movement Secretariat, to Maris, and also to RK and staff. Ayan na si Maris. So siya yung nangungulit sa atin. Napakasisipag po niyan. Kahit may COVID, no? Nandyan sila. And also to Inquirer for being our partner for this afternoon webinar. So we are live in their Inquirer net yata. And also on Facebook. To Harvey, thank you very much for this opportunity, for this webinar. And to all our Kaya Natin members and champions, sa inyo pong lahat, please stay safe, stay healthy. We need to live longer than the COVID, okay? Because we have a lot of work to do. We will fight and patuloy pa rin ang laban natin, no, towards good governance. Kakayanin natin ito kasi magkakasama tayong lahat. And to all of you, our dear participants, maraming salamat. Maraming salamat po from Kaya Natin. As I always say, lagi itong para sa Diyos at para sa bayan. Kaya Natin. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much. Picture.
Opo. 1,